Hello, I am going to give a little bit of an introduction, explanation of the musical system that I use. It's not in use by anybody but myself. But I thought I'd give a little rundown here. I'm going to try to make this pretty quick, pretty slick through these ideas. But on the other hand, I am seldom known for my brevity. So we'll see how this goes. Anyways, some of the main concepts of my system, or the system that I use, um, is chromatically. I speak in chromatic terms, and I guess that's the biggest gist, running through both, all aspects of it. And that has a few different uses, a few different ways to implement that concept. Anyways, like I said, I'm gonna shoot for brevity. We'll see. So one of the first things here is I use the notes H through S. H, I, J, K, L with a little tail there, just so you know it's an L, not a 1. M, N, O with a little cursive curl there. P, Q, R, S. And then H. There we go. 12 notes. So you can speak chromatically. Each note does not have a sharp, it doesn't have a flat. Sharps and flats are over. um, it has just one identity. Each note has one identity. Oh, and this piano is going to be out of tune, so I apologize. But yeah, so H is what most people know as A. What everyone in the world knows is A. So anyways, this H, K, M, O, P, R, H. And we'll start with the K. Will be the white keys, more familiar. So K, in fact, I will write this out. So K, M, O, P, R, H, J, K. So K, M, O, P, R, H, J, K. So that's the layout. And then you've also got the black keys up here, which will be L, N, Q, S, and I. So L, N, Q, S, I. And that is the layout there. Yeah. So that is the first aspect of the system. Yeah, and the real benefit of that is each note has its own identity. There's no what sharp flat, what context is it in. Its own identity, easily transcribable, very memorizable. And just so you can get a little bit more visualization, I'll also apply this to guitar. So we got we got an O chord. So that's got the notes O, J, O, S, J, and O. So that's another example. Got the notes laid out right there for you. And now, occasionally I'll be working in my chromatic staff that I use. We'll try not to make it too much the focus because it's a few instrument examples will probably be more effective for this. But the layout of the chromatic staff is, so you have your bar line. Basically, the idea is you get some notches here. Just I don't actually draw these, but it's good for the explanation of what's going on here, for the spacing and all that. So evenly spaced like notches up there. All right, and then you draw 5 lines. 5, skip a line, and then draw 5 more lines, and then skip a line. And then you pretty much go up as far as you need. I usually do 2 octaves. So 5 lines, and then the floating space is what I call it, is 1 octave. So you starts that bottom line here starts at H, and then you can make a little number notation on the side here for which octave it's in. For example, H, if I put a 3 here, that designates that the H line here is, well, my marker's kind of going out a little bit. Markers are pretty worn. That indicates that this H line here, which is at the bottom of the group of 5 lines, is in the 3rd octave, using the octave number assignment. So that would be, here we go. Here's a middle C, C4, and which in this system is K. So middle K, if you want to call it that. And then you got J, which we've gone down to the 3rd octave using absolute terminology for octaves. And then H3, 3rd octave H. So that would be, so this note right here would be right here. That's that note. Yeah, so to have an example here, you got H space J space L, and so on. So H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, stand a little bit there, P. Here, Spark is wondering, oh, what's that? What's the deal with that gap? And so here's how the gap works. If you have a note right in the middle of this gap where there would be a line called the floating space, and you can obviously see there's no contact with the lines above or below. That's in the floating space. That's in the middle where there would be a line if it wasn't omitted for visual ease. And then the next note up is where there would be a space here. It's called the middle line. The middle space there is called the floating space. It's where a line would be, but it's not. And the line of the space above and below that floating space are called attached spaces. And all these spaces here are called attached spaces as well, because the notes are attached. If I actually draw them the size that I might normally draw them, the notes are attached to the staff lines there. They'll bump into them. So that's the guide for these attached spaces. They will be placed in where this space would be, and they will graze either the line above, or if you're doing the note down here, it'll graze the line below. And the middle one, when it doesn't even get close, or at least that close to either line, that's the floating space. And so this note right here is S. Let's see here. S. The floating space here is R. And this attached space on that line below is Q. So now, just to help visualize it, I will write out the notes here and then move on, because I will try not to use this too much. H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, H. And I guess one example would be, let's see, H, L, O, and R. For those in the know, it's good old, well, I'll get into the chord naming in a little bit. But, good old major, little action up there. So H, L, O, R. Right in that floating space there. All right. So I'm going to move on from that chromatic staff stuff. Oh, and the designation for that. Because since there's also 5 lines in this, as there is with the treble clef, it can be a little bit of confusion. I mean, I basically keep my system separate from anything like treble clef. But just in case there's any worry of that, you can use this symbol as a designation. Chromatic staff. This little C, then S. Yeah. Or whatever way you want to stylize it, I guess. Still kind of working on that. Maybe I'll get a fancy look for it at one point. All right, and I guess one thing that should be noted at this point is that and you probably noticed here, is if I write notes, just a single note, I use lowercase. Only if I'm using multiple notes. So if I'm using a chord, I'll use uppercase. So this is an H chord, and this is an H note. And you can sometimes you apply that, like especially on the guitar. You got a K chord, and now, like for instance, K lowercase is a little bit different, but it's pretty similar. Just make it fit in the context, the sizing of what you're writing in, and it just make it clear that way. But otherwise, it should be pretty simple. But by the size you make it compared to other things and where you put it, the context should clear that up. But anyways, here's an example. K with R on the bottom. Now K has R in it, but with guitar voicing, I'll show you why. The familiar one with that. So you got a K chord there. You can have that open. You can have that not even played, or you can have that R. That's a common fingering there. That the lowercase, uppercase demarcation comes in handy. Yeah. Plus, if you're just sketching out some stuff, H, we'll do minor, H, K, O, blah, blah, blah. It's nice to know that these are notes, and if you see, it's just good separating in terms of concept. Now, here's a little bit of a curveball here. I also use a few different numerals, single digits versions of some higher numbers. And this originated from guitar tablature because although there's only rare cases when you get up into the 20s where you can actually confuse one fret from another, in terms of visually reading, it can get pretty clustered. For example, if you got a progression that's 10, 11, 12, 9, hammer on 13 or so. Well, that's it's a little bit of a jump there, but let's say 9, hammer on 12, or 11 even. And then you're playing a 13, something like that. Now this all gets bunched up together. So how this originated for me was I just thought, you know what? I will make my own symbols. So there are, I have single digit symbols for the numbers. So you get 9, 10, 11, 11 is short for 11, especially if you're counting stuff. It just gets quicker. 12 or 12, another little shorthand thing. 13, 14, 15. And I have them all the way through 24, which can be handy with a second octave. Can also be handy with telling time a little bit too. you make something and you just want to use it everywhere. But these are the ones that, especially right here, these are the ones that actually are needed most of the time. And these are just 3 extra symbols so that the spacing works out less clustered. You know, you have to learn a couple new symbols, but after that, nothing's clustered anymore. And especially, oh, actually, I'm just going to skip over the guitar fretboard. We don't need that anymore. And especially, it's useful because, like I said, everything is chromatic. So I don't use 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 4th degree, 5th degree, 6th degree, 7th degree, and 8th degree for the octave. I don't base it off the major scale. I use it chromatically. So, can I outline that? Well, actually, I'll do it a little bit different than that. I'll do 0. And now we're getting to the territory of what I call chromatic distances. You can call them chromes for short. And this is basically the root. So 0, you start at 0. If you're in H major, H is your starting point, H is your 0. So, if I do a major scale here, which is what the standard system is built off of, 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, another short. 0 can be Z, 7 can be Sev. And some Sev, I in particular have that shorthand because sometimes I just count up to 7 instead of subdividing. If we're switching over to talking about rhythm now, instead of deciding what the subdivision of like 7, 8 would be, sometimes for I'll say just Sev, or if I'm just listing off chord tones, sometimes having that shorthand of Sev is a lot simpler. Well, yeah. And for example, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you don't have to do that extra 7 and split that beat in half. So I use Sev as a little shorthand vocal. Let's see, 9, 11, and then back at the octave, which is 12. And this will be. And it's supposed to look a little better than that, but hopefully you don't mind too much. And that is the major scale. So I'll apply that. So, example, markers go out again. I'll use different coloring. So we got K, M, O, P, and I try to use just a little little swirl there just to differentiate. This is a habit, so I know it's O, not 0. G, R, H, J, K. And I'll count that so you can visualize that. Give an example. So K, 0, 1, 2 is at M, 3, 4 is O, 5 at P, 6, 7 R, 8, 9 is H, 10, Lev, J, and then 12 back at K, so the octave. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, the octave. Yeah, so with that layout, and I'll be trying to use this diagram, this layout here. You got the 4 and 5 next to each other. So this is a way to visualize it. Probably try to draw that a little bit better too. And so, as you notice, I'm using the quotation mark there as has a designation that it's a chromatic distance and not in the standard system a seventh or anything like that. This is so whatever distance I'm talking about, five chrome, that indicates chromatic. So for example, if I'm on K, so actually I'll write that out. So K, and I go up 5. And this is just the way I like to notate intervals if I'm being very specific about it. K up 5, so K at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is P. Oh, let's keep my own system and make that lowercase. Yeah, so that's what that is. And there is a parallel to inches and feet, because if I don't write 5, if I don't write 5, but instead write 1 apostrophe 5, then that means octave plus 5 chromatic distances. So if let's start a little bit further down so you can actually see it there with the camera. Yeah. So if I go R and then up 1 octave and 5 chromes, then that's, so 1 octave and then 5 chromes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to K. So that's, you can think of it just like inches and feet. So just like you would have your feet and then inches, you have your octave and then your chromatic distance. Well, your chromatic distance, you're a little bit added chromatic distance, because the whole chromatic distance would be 1 octave and 5 plus 5 more, or 17 would be the total there. So yeah, that's that. Let's see here. Oh, and if you're writing out a bunch of relative, so not with the actual note names, but relative degrees, and you don't want to put the quotation mark in there as a signal that it is chromatic distances and not anything else, you can use this as a little shorthand, so you can just say all these are chromatic distances. 0, 4, 7, 10, which is very recognizable chord there. Yeah. And yeah, so that's that way. Now I don't even include the quotation mark nowadays, just because I know the system, I know I'm using it, and I use it only with the notes H through S. So I use the chromatic degrees, the chromatic distances, and H to S together, and I don't mix it with the standard system, because that can get very confusing, especially since there's overlap of the numbers. And I mean, HS, totally different notes, because I didn't want any confusion. I would do the same thing with the numbers, except the numbers relate directly to arithmetic, and so you can't really work around it. Like, this is a distance of 1. That's what it is. I'd like to give it a different name so it wasn't confusing, but I have to call that's 1. I already make new symbols for 10 and 11 and all that. So I mean, how confusing do I want to get? All right, and then I guess I'll just note for you. Excuse me. That's so if you draw a down arrow instead, so like from J to R, then it indicates you're going down. Yeah, that'd be 4 there. Then I guess I'll put that little quotation mark symbol there. Chrome. You can call it Chrome symbol if you want. Yeah, so It's a limitation. You can draw it up or down. You can draw it sideways too, but a little less specific about what direction you're going. And I mean, the assumption there would probably be ascending, but not necessarily. Yeah, and then I'll map out one chord here, so you can kind of get an impression on this a little bit better. And so this structure I'm putting here, in fact, I'm going to put it a little bit to the left and get a different marker because this one's going again. I'm going to go to the store and snag me some new ones. Try to buy the right kind this time. These lasted for a while. All right, so this structure will be the structure of the major scale, because that's what that's what I think base a lot of my things off of. Though I want my language to be chromatic so it can handle anything. But this is a nice way to visualize it, especially with a lot of ways you might already think of. I think that's a little bit off again. I'll try one more time. Especially with how people, think of music, especially with the major scale degrees that the standard system uses. All right, let's see if this works. Unless I screw it up again. 5, 7, 9. All right, I think that's it. Well, just that one, a little bit there. Tiny. That's a little better. All right, so, and just as a reminder, you got 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 12, which is the octave of 0. So that's your structure. So major chord would be 0, 4, 7, and I'll give you an example there. I think actually already did that, but I want to display it like this. So K, ooh, that one's working. K, where am I? Yeah. K, O, and then R. So you got your K, O, R. Yeah. And then I think I will stop this video here, and the next one I'm going to delve into chord naming and how some of this stuff applies to chords.